because I didn't feel comfortable going into a gym. It's not because I'm insecure or anything, it's just that I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing there, probably because I didn't have the support that was required. So you almost feel intimidated by people who are already there, like lifting all these heavy weights, and you're just walking into this room and it's full of guys, for example, who were all just lifting heavy weights, and there's just little you who comes in and you just like instantly you think everyone's looking at me. They're probably not and don't even care about you, but in your head psychologically you think, oh, I don't know really what I'm doing. I don't really know how to use the machines, though it's got these instructions. And so instantly you feel intimidated, and I never liked that environment. So naturally I chose to do cardio, which I didn't like anyway. And when you naturally don't feel comfortable, you don't know the people very well, it's not easy to necessarily go, oh, can you help me on this? You think you know what you're doing, but your posture might not be right. You know, I remember being in the gym, and it was only because I used to go Sundays when there were less people, because that I was more comfortable doing weights then. But I was told I was doing something wrong. I thought I was fine, you know, and then things like that would naturally be like, oh, actually I don't even know what I'm doing when I thought I did. So yeah, it's for me then I was like, I don't really want to do something that I could cause damage to my own body. So
welcome to Real People, Real Results, Real Change, the podcast that's dedicated to helping real people develop real health and fitness in their lives. Real people like you, business owners, professionals, house husbands and housewives, and students. I'm Stefan, I'm a personal wellness coach at UFit Studio, and I'll be your host. This episode, I'm talking with Niv Tejpal, Head of R&D for an Energy Consultancy. Niv has always strived to succeed personally and professionally, and is on a journey to develop a better relationship with mind, body and soul. In this episode, we talk about how intimidating gym environments can be for women, and Niv's journey to finding the right fitness space for her life. All right, Niv, it is so good to have you here today. Really excited about our discussion. And I guess what we were going to talk about was some of the barriers to accessing a gym, using a gym, attending a gym, and especially for women.
yeah.
Right? And you're on your own specific fitness journey.
Yeah.
But what have you been your prior experiences that have been perhaps less than easy or less than inspiring, let's say, right? In terms of sort of, gym use.
It's hard, first of all, it's hard finding the right gym for you, and you don't even know what the right gym is until you actually go to a gym.
Right.
But so you think all gyms are equal, but for me, obviously some are deemed higher end than others and have better equipment than others and other facilities as well. But for me, I've always, with gyms, the reason why I've never stuck to one, I'm disciplined in other areas, but the gym was where I struggled with because I didn't feel comfortable going into a gym. It's not because I'm insecure or anything, it's just that I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing there, probably because I didn't have the support that was required. So you almost feel intimidated by people who are already there, like lifting all these heavy weights, and you're just walking into this room and it's full of guys, for example, who were all just lifting heavy weights, and there's just little you who comes in and you just like instantly you think everyone's looking at me. They're probably not and don't even care about you, but in your head psychologically you think, oh, I don't know really what I'm doing. I don't really know how to use the machines, though it's got these instructions. And so instantly you feel intimidated, and I never liked that environment. So naturally I chose to do cardio, which I didn't like anyway.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So, and that's why I've always struggled with going to the gym. It was, the last gym was only because it was close to work, but I wasn't going on a regular basis.
Okay, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of gyms make an effort, right?
Yep.
They give you an induction. That's what it normally is, right? And presumably you've had inductions in different gyms and stuff. But does it not make the difference necessarily?
No, because you can't learn everything there. As much as they say we're around and stuff like that, there's lots of people there. And when you naturally don't feel comfortable, you don't know the people very well, it's not easy to necessarily go, oh, can you help me on this? You think you know what you're doing, but your posture might not be right. You know, I remember being in the gym and it was only because I used to go Sundays when there were less people, because that I was more comfortable doing weights then. But I was told I was doing something wrong. I thought I was fine. You know, and then things like that would naturally be like, oh, actually, I don't even know what I'm doing when I thought I did. So, it's, for me, then I was like, I don't really want to do something that I could cause damage to my own body. So, it was tough, I think, not having somebody constantly there. And then I actually started seeing a personal trainer. For that reason, to do weights, and that was okay, but I just didn't feel. I found it such hard work, and for me, I still dreaded going. I didn't mind it, but I didn't enjoy it. You know, it got to a point where I was like, oh, I don't really want to go. So and then I had to get myself out of it.
And so. So what was it that, like, with hindsight, that it just wasn't as enjoyable as it could be? Like, what was missing, or what was not the way it could have been that would have made that more?
For the personal training? I don't know. Maybe because I never really thought about this, but the one-to-one, which I thought was more important than anything else, I felt was too intense.
Right.
Yeah, I actually thought that would be better for me, but actually it was far too much for me, I think. And I didn't really like, and also I think my PT was a male. I think I would have probably at that point preferred a female, and I think he mainly trained men anyway, but I didn't know of any female personal trainers.
Gotcha. Okay. And then obviously, you know, you found a fitness studio that you're happier with, where there is personal training as well as part of that. So what are some of the things that you've found over time, or you've realised make it? Because tell me if I'm wrong, right? But you're enjoying it far more, and finding it far more motivating, and fun, and comfortable. So what are some of the things that enable you to feel that way and help?
It's the people who work there. I think that's you buy into people. But, you know, the machines are what they are. You know, you buy into the people. I think is the most important. So feeling comfortable in that environment is so important. I think as a female as well, who's probably not, like I said, not used to that environment. So going into something I don't really know, I don't like being in that situation. So I think the fact that they can see if you look confused, whereas in other places you have to go and see somebody. You know, naturally they will come to you. It's like they say. I always said this. They're like meerkats. They're always on the lookout. You know, for like to see. Even if you were, I remember once I must have opened the wrong app only because I think I thought I had somebody else as my personal trainer, but I think she was doing a class at the time. So I just checked the app, and somebody from across the room were like, "You're looking at the wrong app," and I was like, "How the hell did they see that?" It's just little things like, you know, they're so on point. So, but it's also the people there as well. You know, everyone's so friendly, and that is what helps you to go as well. So I think it's a combination of the quality you get, and the environment is so important.
So obviously not everyone is in a position where I guess tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like part of what you're saying is that it's important to keep looking until you find the right kind of combination. Because it sounds like things have clicked for you now in a way that maybe they haven't before.
But that's with a lot of things, I think, in life, regardless. You know, I think until you've tried things, you don't know what the right thing is. Whether it's, you know, the way you work, how you work, and even finding, you know, the right gym. For me, it then became a struggle of, how do I fit this into my life? You know, it's fine finding it. When you do long hours at work, how do you make it work for you? And that was the second challenge I had. I didn't dread going, but how do you find time? By the time you've started at 6:30 in the morning, by the time you've done a day, you're tired. You know, and sometimes you get, you know, somebody's called you into a meeting or whatever it may be. So, it was, for me, it's also finding that, and I think I've found that too.
Okay.
That's taken a year, but yeah.
Okay. So tell me about that. So what's changed that enables you to make or create that time for your fitness and for your health in that way?
So my health, towards the start of the year, my health wasn't great, and I had COVID, and it started to deteriorate, and then I didn't realise I had Hashimoto's. But yeah, it took me a long time to recover, and then you suddenly end up, it's a wake-up call, and the doctor's like, you've got a lifestyle problem, you know, and it will get worse if you don't look after yourself. So, you know, I was going to the gym, but I know I should be going more often, but work was taking over my life and has been for some time. The problem is, I think sometimes, especially with certain organisations or smaller organisations, you know, if you're good at what you do and you do it, you know, they expect more and more, or it just happens, work just lands with you because you know you'll do it.
Yeah.
So it was about being disciplined. I've had to then be disciplined about, actually, I need to put my health first. And I was trying to finish at 4 on the dot, but then that wasn't always working because somebody would rope you into a meeting or didn't realise what your working hours were because you were working from home. I think part of the problem with that is that people think you're accessible for 12-hour days, you know, when actually they don't appreciate what times you start, finish, you know, a lunch break. It's just just booking a meeting because maybe they've started late, you know. So that was quite hard. But when I was speaking, actually my manager's great, but you know, he suggested maybe going lunch times, and that for me has worked brilliantly because I start early because I'm a morning person, and then actually it breaks my day up. I was finding that I wasn't really taking breaks otherwise, so it's actually helped my work as well because I'm less tired throughout the day. But it's taken me some time, like I said, to do it. I tried morning sessions. That didn't work. As much as I'm a morning person, I don't think I can work out in the morning.
Okay.
So, I feel tired for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And that's a really interesting good way of looking at it, actually, like that, having that break in lunch where you're doing something completely different. And there's a tiring element to it, but you're also energizing as well. Yes, and it is stepping away completely, isn't it, in your mindset?
Yeah, and also sometimes, like when you're in work and you're solving something, like you can't always see the solution when you're not in that thing. Like sometimes I'll remember, I can do it like this. You know, it will just come to you. You know, and it's great. So it's a good way of doing it, and it helps. You know, mentally it helps you as well. So
okay, amazing. Because a lot has changed in recent times, hasn't it? And the pandemic for a lot of people was a big change with working from home. How did that impact for you?
Well, for me it was brilliant. I say it was brilliant because I used to get up at 5:15 in the morning, and I didn't have to start till later on, but I'm a morning person. I'd rather get there, not sit in traffic and start work. So when I was able to work from home, I did 1 day a week, but when I was able to obviously constantly work from home, it was just like, oh my God, I could get a lie in every day. Like, it's great. So, but then it became a struggle. So I started logging on a bit later. So still earlier than most people, but for me it was a lie-in.
Gotcha.
But it was still, but then it started to shift. So I enjoyed that for a period, and then you realise that you're still not getting all your work done, so you have to start earlier and earlier. And it just, I fell back into the routine of actually starting really early, not having breaks at all. Whereas when I was working, if you weren't at your desk, people realised you weren't at your desk. You didn't have all these Teams calls constantly, you know, and you're not, people think you're available when you're working from home, or there's an expectation. That was, people just think you're on call 24 hours a day, you know, and it doesn't work. And that was the hardest thing, I think, to adjust, that actually, can they trust me to take time, because there was almost, I think a lot of people felt like this, that actually you're working from home, I have to constantly be sitting at my desk.
Yes.
But it's not about that, you know, as long as you get stuff done and there's an element of trust, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's a very different way of working. And
Yeah, it is. And having where you've had a certain routine, and like I said, like before, I was able to go out lunchtimes, you know, you go and get a sandwich, but you're leaving your desk. When you're at home, you'd walk to the kitchen, you know,
exactly.
and you weren't really leaving, and then I'll just get this done, I'll just get this, and you just sat at your desk for 12 hours without realising, which is not healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was about readjusting and rethinking what your new working day looked like, and that doesn't come naturally. It's with trial and error, I think. I tried lots of things, but I think I'm good now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what's been a highlight from the last year or so, would you say, for you?
I think working towards getting my health on track and prioritising me. I think what I didn't realise, I was like this little hamster on a wheel, and just doing stuff, you know, constantly working, and never really prioritised myself. And you just tire yourself out, you get more and more irritable, and it doesn't help anybody, you know. So I think what for me has been the greatest thing is actually doing stuff for me and helping me, and being on that journey, I think has been, you know, what's been great.
Yeah. So where has your where has your so you're doing like strength training? Is that right?
Yes.
Which is mostly free weights.
Yes.
And you're doing some cardiovascular work as well, sort of as part of that, or is it predominantly the strength training?
Mainly strength training.
Strength training.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's changed up with that, and what role has that played in terms of your, sort of getting your health more on track again?
I just feel a lot better doing. I feel stronger in what I'm doing, and it actually gives you time for yourself. Strength training is a funny one, because I remember when I went to the gym, I didn't quite understand the concept of it, if I'm blatantly honest. But I think as you get older, you realise that you need to do strength training for your own health, and so you don't end up with osteoporosis and things like that. So, you know, for me, it was important, and it was suggested to me by the doctor that I do some kind of strength training. I was actually told I should be doing about half an hour to an hour a day of exercise. But yeah, strength training was something I didn't quite get in my head. I couldn't understand why anybody would do an hour's worth of strength training and see results.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't. I thought you'd have to do cardio and lots of other things. So, but for me, it takes my mind off work. That for me is the biggest thing. Because I have to focus on what I'm doing at the time.
Right.
I'm not then focusing. My mind isn't on working. Whereas I think if you're on a treadmill and you're running, you still end up thinking about work. Whereas this, you're thinking on, or you're counting your reps, or you're doing something which actually then you're not thinking about work. So for me, it's a brilliant distraction, and that's how it gives you that time off, which helps.
Yeah, it sounds like it fully engages.
Yeah, it does.
In doing that, okay. And then have you just sort of like day to day, do you notice benefits sort of in your life of that? Like, are you stronger? Like,
yes, I would say I'm. And I see my little muscles, and I'm like, oh, never thought I'd see that. So yeah, no, I do feel a lot stronger, and I just feel better in myself. I mean, yeah, it's amazing because I was never big, you know. So, but to see the results of just over the last year, I think has been great. I just feel so much better. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? I think I was talking to someone the other day, and who was, saying people were, telling her that like, women can't be strong, and that's just not a thing.
No.
And obviously she's challenging those views and stuff. Yeah. But I think there still is that perception very often, and so people don't consider that side of it. Do they?
No, and also, I mean, the other fear I had was that I was going to bulk out.
Nice.
I was like, probably because one of my managers of a previous job, she used to be a bodybuilder. Okay. So I just had this image in my head that I was going to look like her. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, oh my God, so it was a bit. is that what people look like in my head? Because I'd never really seen, because you don't see, when you go to a gym, you don't see a lot of women lifting weights, but, you know, who are slim but strong.
Yeah.
You know, I've generally only seen women who were, you know, who were quite muscular.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, you know, and that's why I thought I'd end up looking like that. But yeah, obviously that is not the case, which I'm pleasantly surprised at.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so not everyone, and especially a lot of women, right, don't necessarily have access to anything other than kind of like, you know, your sort of run-of-the-mill kind of gym or those kind of personal trainers and stuff. So I don't know, like, what would you say to someone who was sort of in that position, particularly a woman who was in that position? Like, what would you, like, just with hindsight, say to kind of look out for as things that will help them to feel more confident, or, you know what I mean? Like, because it's a challenge, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think until you try lots of things, you don't know what's going to work for you. And that's the reality. Some people may feel confident going to certain things or not. Classes might work for them, others won't. So I do think that you never know how you're going to feel in what situation until you try. And the hardest thing is getting through that door. You know, it doesn't, even if you're going in for a consultation. But for me, when you do that, you will know whether it's a right place for you or not. You just get a vibe. And even before I joined, you know, the gym I'm at now, I did try other, you know, I did look around at other gyms, and I just didn't get the same vibe whatsoever. So it's a combination of how you feel and actually trial and error, because you don't know. You think something might be right for you, but until you do it, you don't actually know.
Yeah, absolutely. But it sounds like the benefits are more than worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having somebody, not only for your physical health, but your mental health too. And, you know, more and more people work from home, and it just gives you that break in between, and it gives you discipline to do it. I just see it as another meeting I've got to do. You know, treat it as part of my day now. And because of that, I'm now going more often than I was in a week, so which is great.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. All right, well, we're going to talk again, but really enjoyed that so far. And I'll speak to you again next episode. Thanks.
All right, great, thanks.